This week's Safety Toolbox talk is on scaffold safety and some of the hazards that could be associated with scaffolding, and then some of the requirements due in regard to the scaffolding OSHA requirements. Looking at this supported stair tower scaffold system on one of our projects, you can recognize the plywood box at the base. These protective measures are put into place because of the public and off-hour activities. We find every now and then that someone has a tendency of going up our stair towers and our scaffold systems during off hours and potentially maybe trying to break into the buildings or getting themselves into riffraff on our projects. But looking at a supported scaffold system, number one killer again in supported scaffolds and suspended scaffolds is fall protection. You can see that on each elevation there are guardrail systems, and in this case also there are toe boards in place on this public sidewalk area, so that if we're using a beta hoist up on top of this thing and bringing material up and anything was to drop down into this base and or onto one of the platforms, it would be protected from the public.
Too much is too much.
Primary observation on our supported scaffold systems would be these tie-ins here. These tie-ins are required from the ground level up 4 times the base width of the scaffold, and once you're established at roughly 20 feet off of 0, every 26 feet vertically and every 30 feet horizontally. So there are a lot of dimensions to look at when you're on a supported scaffold system, including the dimension from the face of the building to the face of the scaffolding system, not necessarily supposed to exceed 14 to 18 inches. Looking at this scaffold system here, the cleanliness and the slip resistance that's been put down, or any gaps that you might see in a supported scaffold system, to eliminate any potential trips, slips, and or falls. As discussed on the text portion of your safety talk this week, the tag for each of the scaffold systems by the manufacturer or the scaffold erector that puts it up, that comes back to inspect it periodically and giving us approval to use it. Green meaning yes, go for it. Yellow meaning caution, be aware of something. And then of course red meaning you can't use it at all. Now, looking at this supported scaffold system here that we've already seen the tag on and we've already seen the ties in, if we were to wrap this in visqueen and had tradesmen working on this throughout the winter cold months, the visqueen in itself would be hit by the wind, creating forces on all the tie-ins to the structure. So we would most likely get a structural engineer involved on a piece of scaffolding of this magnitude and probably double up on all our horizontal and vertical tie-ins, and then of course inspecting it on a daily basis to make sure that she hasn't shifted, making an unsafe potential collapse condition for our tradesmen. Looking at additional scaffold systems, to the left there we've got a suspended scaffold system. Up on the roof, looking at the rooftop rigging, making sure that the flange members up on top were independently tied back to 5,000 pound anchorage points, and then the lifelines were on independent 5,000 pound anchorage points. Both gentlemen are tied off 100% of the time. And then to the right, a mast climber, hydromobile per se. Guardrails are already built into it, set up level on the ground on outrigger pads and mud sills. There's plenty to look at in regard to hazards associated with supported and suspended scaffold systems. And once again, looking at these two systems, fall protection is truly a must.